Thank you so much. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Stephen Bucher. I am one of the product managers on the Azure CLI and Azure PowerShell team, and I'm joined here with Chris Harris.
I'm Chris Harris. I am the product manager for GitHub Copilot for Azure, along with my friend 𝗦𝗽𝗀𝗀𝗃 down here.
Yeah, so we're here to talk about ClickOps to DevOps, how you can use the Copilot in Azure to really help accelerate your work, to help automate and make deployments and infrastructure management much easier and much more automatable. I don't even know if that's a word, but we're going to make it a word. So first off, who's anyone familiar with ClickOps already? Kind of roughly understand what it is? Okay. Well, so ClickOps is essentially it's a generalized term for the process that you take to click and go through the Azure Portal or any kind of graphical user interface to manage your cloud infrastructure or other kind of infrastructure. And it's really, really great for getting started. It's really awesome for understanding how to intuitively go through and create resources, manage resources, test out things, and develop a sandbox experience with them. However, when you get to more sophisticated infrastructure, ClickOps can be a little dangerous. It can be error prone. You may not see every single error. You may click the toggle the wrong way or something like that that leads to some kind of deployment error. It can create technical debt in the long term. This means, you create something that, hey, you've created with the tag A on a bunch of these resources, but then you transition to using tag B, and it gets a little confusing because you may not remember what you did a long time ago. It's also really difficult for backup and disaster recovery scenarios. So if you have your infrastructure go down for whatever reason, it's not always great for going through and clicking and getting it back up and running. And of course, it's hard to set up repeatable environments. You want to make sure that your pre-prod environments and your prod environments are exactly the same. And you can do it through ClickOps going through this way, but it's not. You may forget one or two little settings, and so your environments may be different. And that's where DevOps kind of comes into play, where DevOps is the use of tools like infrastructure as code and scripting automation to make sure that the deployments you have are repeatable, not error prone, and easier for backup and recovery. So like I mentioned, these are tools like Terraform, Bicep, PowerShell, Azure CLI, and a couple other various ones. But these are the ones that we kind of work with here. And I always love to say they're super easy to use. There's only 10,000 different Azure CLI commands and another 10,000 Azure PowerShell commands. So that's just not right. Getting started with infrastructure as code is not super easy, right? It's difficult to know kind of how to get started. It's difficult to know what kind of information you need. And so we're really trying to help assist you with graduating from ClickOps to DevOps with Azure Copilot across all the places you touch Azure in. Yep. So let's move on here. I'm going to switch over to some demos now. So how are we doing this? The first way we're doing this is, well, I guess should we talk about the portal first?
Yeah, let's do the portal.
Let's talk about the portal first. So this is the kind of, the Azure Portal experience that I'm sure everyone is familiar with. This is where you're doing your ClickOps and going through this process. We're going to be going through kind of a process of creating a storage account end to end. And so, yeah, this is just the idea of anything you wanted to add on this page here, on the showing the account.
No, you've probably all done this before. You've walked through the portal, you fill in some fields, you click some buttons. Maybe you need to come over here to some advanced settings and turn some things on or off, and come down at the end and you review and create. So the difficult part is it's not very easy to reproduce this unless you have a very specific script to guide you through every time. And different people on your team may custom craft resources different ways. So we want to help with that.
Yeah, and so you can get that kind of help from the Copilot in Azure. Is it this?
Yep.
This one here?
Yep.
Oh, no.
Yep, just pop it open.
Oh, okay. So of course you can get your help from the Copilot in Azure in the portal, asking how you can, do a reproduction of some of the storage account stuff. So we asked this here earlier just because we've been having some Wi-Fi troubles here, but essentially, can you create a storage account called Chris Harris Copilot Demo 2 in the blob container called uploads? And of course, Copilot can come back with a whole variety of different options. And these were a lot of the options we talked about previously. So here is just kind of an example of asking, hey, I want the portal, I want to do this via the portal. And it will go through and kind of select your subscriptions, find the right subscription and resource group, and walk you through how to do it in a ClickOpsy way. And
so it can guide you.
It can guide you.
But it's still going back through that ClickOps approach here.
Absolutely. And so, you know, you can ask it too in the portal, you know, how can I do this with Azure CLI? I mean, it's even suggesting it here with, you know, how do I create a storage account using Azure CLI? And of course, you can do this in the portal using Cloud Shell, but we also wanted to bring it to everywhere that you use Azure CLI and Azure PowerShell, and that is the CLI itself. So we've created a tool called AI Shell here. So I'm opening up my Windows terminal window here, and I'll zoom in a little bit here so everyone can see. But essentially, we've created a very, very simple tool called AI Shell that connects you to the Copilot in Azure and other various AI agents. So all I have to do is run start-AI shell, and this will open up a side pane here, very familiar kind of chat experience that you have with the Copilot in Azure. And I'm going to select the Azure agent here. And while it's loading up, I'm going to just zoom in for everyone to see. But right now, it's getting the token I have on this machine and confirming that I have access to the Copilot in Azure, and that, oh, and we got to refresh it out there. So,
do you have it open in the next one?
I do have it open in the next one. So essentially what you can do is ask very, very similar questions that you can ask exact same questions as you can in the Copilot in Azure in the portal. And so, however, this one is going to be giving back a lot more CLI and Azure PowerShell commands. And so you can see here, I ask it, what is it, Control-I? I ask it, you know, can you create me a storage account with Azure CLI? And it gives me back the Azure CLI commands to do so. It says, hey, you know, oh Lord. Don't zoom in that much. Okay. It says, hey, here's all the parameters that you need, and here's a bunch of placeholders for them. And so it can go through and kind of, we can walk through it and say, hey, let's try to create a new storage account. I got to give it a name, test storage account. And this is where it gets really exciting, where we can query and give you specific context to the subscription you have logged into this service. So resource group, I have to provide a resource group for the storage account to be deployed into. I may forget what resource account, you know, resource group names I have, and so we suggest it. I can just simply arrow key down and up and take a look at all the resource groups I have available to me. And so I'm just going to just, you know, put it in a random one here because it's not really going to matter too much. And same thing with other kind of parameters like location. I may forget kind of what locations are available to me, so I can go and arrow key down, or I can just simply start typing something like Europe to see what, you know, ones I have available in Europe. This kind of helps assist me through the Azure CLI creation experience. And this is where it gets really good, is because the SKUs. The SKUs are always the thing that at least I always trip up on, syntactically understanding which ones are which. So I can go through and kind of say, okay, I want to do the standard LRS SKU. And so with all these parameters and stuff, it's going to generate the command for me. So now I can just simply run a code post command here and insert it into my working terminal here and get started. AI Shell is a great tool for getting started with Azure CLI or Azure PowerShell. And this is kind of your first step into more advanced scripts, because once you kind of know how to do one of the building blocks, you can build a whole house or automated script around your deployment. So yeah, do you want to show us how to kind of expand it out a bit more too?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. So taking it to the next step, what we're going to do is we're going to switch from the terminal and we're going to go into VS Code. But before we do that, I want to come back here and show, just make sure we can see. So this is an account, a storage account that was created earlier, not the one that Stephen just created. And it has a container in this storage account called uploads, we can see. So when we go into VS Code, I can come in here. So I'm in VS Code. I have the Azure Resources extension open on the side. And you can see I have my storage account. There's a container in there called uploads. So I can see all of this in here. I'm going to be using GitHub Copilot for Azure. That's the extension that lets me do this. So I'm going to open Copilot, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to tell Copilot in agent mode, list the containers in my 𝗲𝗲𝗀𝗃𝗃 𝗵𝗽𝗲 Azure storage account. So it's going to run. And what's happening is there's a bunch of tools that that extension brings in. So you've probably heard a lot today about MCP or over this week. So these are very similar to MCP tools, and some of these will move into the Azure MCP server here before long. So there's one that's going to come in here, and it's going to be able to generate a CLI command. Actually, the LLM's taken a different path, as it would. So what we're doing here is it ran another tool that's actually an MCP tool under the covers, and it came back and said, okay, there's an uploads container inside this storage account. So as I come in here, next command is I'm going to say, show me, that's not the one I want. I want it to write a PowerShell. We're going to use a different command there. I actually want a specific command called create. There we go. So I wanted to create a PowerShell script that is going to not just create the storage account. We can do that. So we have the ability to write Bicep files. We can write Terraform files. We can create AZD templates. There's a lot of capabilities here. In this case, what I'm wanting it to do is to create me a file that will, let's see, did we do it? Query learn. Oh, so it's asking me a question. So what I want it to do is write a script for me. I don't want to like run the command here like we were doing in the terminal. I actually want a script for this thing. So it's asking me, go and upload a single file or all files. We're going to say both. And of course, this is the first time it's asked me that question and the 20 times I practiced. So it's a lot of fun working with LLMs, but we're still doing good. So you can see over here, it's now creating me a PowerShell script. And if we go through here, it knows I want to talk to the storage account. So it pulled that out of the context. It knows I want to get stuff from the container. I want to put things in the container. It wrote a function, and it's using some pretty basic code here. There's not a lot of rich error handling. There's some basic error handling. So this is really good. The next step is it's telling me, oh, hey, do you want to test this, or do I need further customization? So I'm going to say create a test file and upload it. So the nice thing here, by telling it, Copilot, in agent mode here, to create this test file and upload it, it's going to create this test upload.txt file. It's going to run the upload. And if it hits errors, because I'm doing this in agent mode, it can see the errors that are going to show up in the terminal, and it will respond to those. So it gives me the ability, like if there's a coding problem or maybe an authentication problem, something like that, it'll pick up those errors and it'll say, oh, hey, I found this problem.
It looks like it uploaded successfully.
Yeah, everything looks like it went great. Let's go back here, and we're going to open up the uploads folder, and we can come in, and there's test upload. So, I mean, it really just took a few minutes, and even though I've worked with some of this code before, I couldn't sit down in 5 minutes and write this code, from scratch, to upload it, add a little bit of error handling and everything else. So Copilot gets in here and really makes it easy for me to do that, along with our extension. So I think one of the big takeaways, whether we're in the terminal or we're working in VS Code, it's really important to take this concept and apply it to all the resources. Yep. There's a lot of capabilities. So we don't necessarily cover 100% of the surface area yet, but that's coming rapidly. We're adding more and more capabilities. And especially when you get into the coding side, we have access to all the SDK information. So we could write this in Python. We could obviously do it in PowerShell, Bash script. It doesn't really matter. The LLMs are great at writing code. So we have the ability to do this.
Yeah, I think the main takeaway is, like you said, it's all about getting you learning and understanding how you can automate your deployments and stuff, just from single commands to more complicated, scripts, whether it be Python, PowerShell, anything with the power of the GitHub Copilot for Azure and such. But yeah, to wrap up, everything we've seen here, we have put in this QR code that takes you to our demo page, or sorry, takes you to the, session page. of the demo today. It includes all the links about how getting started with AI Shell, getting started with GitHub Copilot for Azure, and getting started with Copilot in Azure in general. So yeah, take a look at that, and thank you very much.
Thank you.